right. Hello, everybody. This is a TBR for June. And have you ever made a TBR where you're like, I don't have any real commitments, and then all of a sudden you start stacking them up and you're like, shit, I got a ton of commitments. That's this TBR, especially after my horrific May. Well, it was a great May actually, because I got to open the business, but didn't get a lot of reading done. So we'll see if we can get all these. A lot of these are makeups because I should have gotten them done in May. The first one, however, is not a makeup. That is The House in the Cerulean Sea. I saw Jashana talk about this back in February and put a hold on it, and I was like the 18th in line or something like that. So I just got it this week, so I stopped all my other readings. I only get 3 weeks on this in the library system because it's a much sought after commodity. So I wanted to be sure to read this. It's not gonna take me 3 weeks to read, but I just wanted to make sure that I would read it, especially considering I've been more busy than I have usually been. It's the story of a guy named Linus, who I'm only in chapter 3, but from what I understand, he is sad with his work and finds a home in this like weird place for people that, you know, society's not okay with, because it's like a magical, odd little world. It actually reminds me a little bit of Lemony Snicket's world, not like in like bleakness, but in like style, where just crazy things happen. He says it and it's just like, oh, that's how the world is. I don't know the name for that, like light fantasy or I don't know. It's not magical realism, it's not realistic at all. But there's magic. Anyway, I don't really know how to describe it, but I've heard it's really great, and I've already read 3 chapters and laughed out loud several times. It's a really fun style. I'm excited. TJ Klune is the author here. I will definitely be reading that and reviewing it on the channel. Traitors Moon, you'll see I already started this at this point. This is the 3rd book in the Night Runner series and is my 3rd read in the #Schollalong. I should have read this in May, but I will not finish it. I started it in May. I will not finish. So I need to read it. This continues the story of Alec and Sarah Gill from the other 2, and I'm not gonna say more because it's the 3rd book in a series. I posted my review of these, I think, already by the time this TBR is going to drop. You should read these books. I don't know why more people aren't talking about these Lynn Flewelling books. They're not new at all. They're from the 90s. I don't know why they aren't more popular and more recommended, because they're just really fun and good characters and good world. Like, that's what we want in fantasy. And it's not like super heavy fantasy. It is enjoyable, consumable fantasy done well. I'll also need to be doing the next book in that, because we're reading 1 a month, and so I missed May. So I got Traitors Moon to make up for May, but then I do have to read the new one in June. It's not this one. The Oracle's Queen is not what we're reading. This is just a stand-in, so I remember to talk about the book I actually need, which I believe is Shadows Linger, if I remember right. If I'm not remembering right, I'm gonna put the title right there. That's what I'll be reading as well. Already I'm in a pretty tight hole based on what I have read before in May, but we'll see how I can do. Speaking of makeup, again in May, I need to read to continue my year of short classics, Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. Again, I've started this, and I'm very excited that this is following up The Color Purple, which I think will be the best book I read this year. And on the bottom here, Alice Walker, I don't know if you can see that in frame, she's quoted as saying, "There's no book more important to me than this one." And I just read Alice Walker's probably most famous book, and it's one of the greatest books I've read in my life. So I think it's really cool I didn't actually do this on purpose, but it's cool to read this afterwards. So Their Eyes Were Watching God, I will be reading in early June, and then the actual book for June, the short classic, is Chronicle of a Death Foretold by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I will be doing a live show with Sean, the husband of Elliot Brooks. I mean, he has other attributes. That's probably how you guys would know him. So I always want to take off these stickers while I'm talking about it. I won't do it, but Chronicle of Death Foretold, short little classic that we'll be reading in June and having a live show at the end of it. Another classic that I actually just heard about and immediately bought is A Confession by Leo Tolstoy. Now, this is a nonfiction work. You guys probably know Tolstoy for his fiction work, like everyone else in the world, including myself before I did some other research on him, but he obviously wrote War and Peace, Anna Karenina, and a couple other things, but those are kind of his two big ones, some of the best known works of all time. In his latter years, because he wrote those two relatively early in his life, he became very depressed and reclusive and actually very interested in God and Christianity and how we live our life. And actually you can trace back a lot of non-resistance from Tolstoy basically to Gandhi to Martin Luther King. There's kind of a straight line there. And a lot of people don't know that about Tolstoy. I didn't know that about Tolstoy, but a lot of it comes from his latter life thinking. A great quote on the end is, he began to turn away from fiction and aesthetics and to search instead for a, quote, practical religion not promising future bliss, but giving bliss on earth. And so he's a mammoth figure in the idea of social justice that is not looked at as often as probably he should be. And so I want to do some of that reading myself. So in this work, which is A Confession and Other Writings, is a Penguin Classic collection. There's several works. So A Confession, and then What is Religion and of What Does Its Essence Consist is another book. Religion and Morality is another. These are all shorter books. And then The Law of Love and The Law of Violence. And that's where he talks a lot about non-violence, which is obviously very important to a lot of social justice movements up into even this day. So I'm excited to read this. This will be kind of a devotional read for me. I'll read it slowly through the next couple months. But as I have observations and thoughts about it, I think I'll probably put it on blogs or other things. So look out for that. We also have book 6 in the Dresden Files. I haven't read Dresden Files, I think, since like February. So I need to get back into it and just continue dredging through this. Again, I shouldn't say dredging through. It's not like it's unenjoyable. These are just really good palate cleansers for me right now. I'm still not like part of the crew that says this is some of the best fantasy out there, but I do think it's really enjoyable to read. So my next one is Blood Rights, which is the 6th book. And the last one was probably my most enjoyable one. So I hope that keeps going up and the world keeps getting bigger. Speaking of worlds getting bigger, I need to read Ian C. Esselmont's Return of the Crimson Guard. I don't know why this poor book just keeps getting down on the bottom, but I actually know the reason to that is because I don't have any commitments with anyone as far as readings, like read-alongs or like the Scholar Along or like my Year Short Classics or even like House in the Cerulean Sea, I got from the library, so I have a time limit on it. Nothing like that. I own all of the ICE books. That's Ian C. Esselmont, that's Molassin groups, we call them ICE books. ICE, it's his initials. Anyway, so I think that's why it just keeps getting like pushed down, but I need to get back into these, especially because I want to read all the ICE books before reading Erickson's new book, The God Is Not Willing, which comes out in August. I already have it pre-ordered and hopefully we'll get it signed by Steve. I ordered it from a bookstore in Canada that he has a relationship with and signs books with. That's neither here nor there. You can look on his website. It's just stevenerickson.com or .org or whatever, and he'll give you a link to all of that. That's my TBR for June. If I do somehow get through all this and have time, I'm going to finish the Tawny Man trilogy and do Fool's Fate. But I do have that book, I just didn't grab it for this video. But I am kind of pessimistic about being able to do that, but who knows? It's the summer. Maybe I'll go to the beach a lot and read a lot more than I expect. But that is my TBR. What do you think of my TBR? And what are you reading? Please put comments. That really helps me out, and I love talking with you guys. And also, let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are on my TBR. Hope you guys are doing well. Have a great month, and I'll see you back soon. As always, first in, last out.